It's Friday, and I don't normally stream on a Friday, but something very significant in my life happened that made me want to stream on a Friday. Wait, Walt likes Death Cab? Yeah, you might say that. And in fact, you might say that my very first favorite band, Death Cab for Cutie, they released an album today. And this is the first album that they have released since I have been doing this thing I do online. Now, if you have been a follower of this channel for any period of time, I would venture to say if you've watched maybe more than 2 or 3 of my videos, you've probably heard me mention the name. And it's not because I care to be redundant or because I'm trying to shove their music down everybody's throat. Believe you me, it's simply because I cannot speak of music without being based in my formative music, which is Death Cab. When I was like 13, I went and stayed for a summer with my aunt and uncle, and my uncle had guitars laying around. Shout out to Uncle Steve, because the summer changes my life, right? And by the end of the summer, when my parents came to get me, my uncle was like, "You should buy Wally a guitar, because he plays guitar now. Nobody showed him to do it; he just does it now." And so my parents were goodly enough to get me a guitar for my birthday. One of the coolest things, again, changes my life. A couple of months later, I discover this band called Death Cab for Cutie. And I'd played a little bit of guitar before that, but when I heard the Plans album, it made this fire go off in my brain where I was like, this is what I want to do. This thing that I am hearing is everything I want to do. And I everything that they did. When I heard this album, I immediately try to figure out what other music I can find, and transatlanticism and Plans end up just being in my brain constantly. Now, remember, I'm in a Christian household. That secular music was off limits. So both of those CDs had been burned, and a blank with the word jars of clay was written on the CDs, okay? So it was like underground to me. Like this was like contraband to me, but I lived for it. Like I was a cowboy of music. And when I get into my senior year of high school, Narrow Stairs comes out, and I listened to these 3 albums exclusively from basically 14 years old until I was like 25 years old. Now, you've heard me mention the formative 5 maybe, which were Death Cab for Cutie, The Decemberists, The Shins, Frightened Rabbit, and Neutral Milk Hotel. I speak the language of music because of these bands in so many ways, and it's through investigating the influences of these guys' influences that where so much of my taste was birthed. And then of course doing this channel really helps me take it into the next chapter. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I have loved all of this stuff. I even like Something About Airplanes. I'm not gonna which is a kind of a deep cut fan take. Okay, I like all of their albums, really up to Codes and Keys. And when we get to Kintsugi and we lose Chris Walla, as far as touring, I don't know if I was just so connected to Chris Walla because really Ben Gibbard and Chris Walla were my guitar teachers, even if they didn't know it. But I just didn't feel like I connected with Kintsugi, Thank You for Today, or Asphalt Meadows in the same ways that I had with these other albums. And I don't know if that's because these have like a sentimental kind of protection layer over them, or that we started, evolving in different ways as people. And maybe I actually need to just try to give them a re-listen again, because it maybe my phase of life now would see it a little differently. I did feel like they were far removals, and maybe evolution of my favorite band that I wasn't the biggest fan of. But the 2 singles that I have heard, those being Punching the Flowers and Riptide, I've absolutely loved. It was definitely evolution that I am here for. Loved to feel like they were kind of going back to some of their earlier stuff, but also loved that they were kind of embracing a more gritty, browner sound than I've heard them do previously. So yeah, I'm pretty excited coming into this one, guys. It's the very first time I've got to be able to, share my favorite band with people. This is like a pretty unique opportunity for me, to a point where I made a whole special day of the week for it on my show. I cannot tell you how much Death Cab for Cutie, Ben Gibbard, Chris Walla, Nick Harmer, and Jason McGurr have meant to me. And I'm saying the original lineup. I'm not trying to dunk on the two new members. I'm just, this is where I'm at. But I'm coming into this with two singles in me that I really enjoy, and I'm so excited at the prospect of liking, truly loving another album from my favorite band. Guys, you got to let me know. Have you heard Death Cab for Cutie? And have you heard this album? This is a music discovery stream. You got to let me know. Have you heard the album? Or are you raw dogging a very first listen with me? I don't know what kind of impression this is going to be for you guys, because again, I haven't heard it. If you want to start, if you want to go through the Walter chronology, it would be Plans, Transatlanticism, and then it'd be Plans, Transatlanticism, and actually kind of descending order from there, and then just in order. But Narrow Stairs, Codes and Keys, Kintsugi, whatever. Definitely let me, go listen to it all, because they deserve it. They're my favorite band. You don't get this channel without them existing. I promise you that. Guys, I'm going to hit the play button. Before I do, it's very important to me that you know that you are awesome, that you are valuable, that you are important, that you matter, that you are deserving of love, and that I am abundantly grateful for even a moment of your time. If you like what you see, feel free to hit the like and the subscribe button. It goes a long way to help me out. If you really like what you see, leave a comment. I would love to hear from you, or join us on Kick or Twitch. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Arizona time. These people over here are the best people. Come hang out with us. Come discover music with us. I know I speak for all of us when I say we would love to have you by. Not Kick. I'm not streaming on Kick anymore. I gotta get that out of my verbiage. I gotta train my brain to do the original script again. Anyways, guys, without further ado, let me introduce you to Death Cab for Cutie. Full of Stars, opening up their brand new album, which came out today, I Built You a Tower. This is I'm so excited. Is this Ben's J45?
Please forgive me these nights. My head is full of stars, of constellations retreating away from where we are.
Oh, wow.
And I fear I'll soon be wishing on an empty sky.
Because he ran out of... Oh, wow.
I've got this anguish.
Came in on the right ear.
We'll never be satisfied. It's always hungry, so I feed it. And have the nerve to wonder why it keeps growing and throwing tantrums just like a child. And all I need is for you to be kind, but it seems it's rarely worth your time.
Bro. I'm a minute and no, I'm not even a minute and a half into the song. This is gonna be a long album. Oh man, the words are hitting me between the eyes. You know, like he's always had such an imagery based like sense of lyricism, and I've always envied that. And if I'm not gonna lie to you, I've probably in my own writing ended up being some kind of Ben Gibbard Walmart brand, but it just I please forgive me. These nights, my head is full of stars, of constellations retreating away from where we are. And I feel I'll soon be wishing on an empty sky. And if you've ever been in a place or a relationship like that, like where you kind of see that maybe it's on its way to punching its ticket and you don't want that to be the case, and maybe you don't want anything in your surrounding circumstances to be the case, it can be heavy. And then even to the point that you feel like just the concept of wishing upon a star is going to go away from you. Like, he's always, I think, written words that I felt like I could, you know, like he kind of gave me the language with which to interpret my emotions in a lot of ways, or like gave me imaginative ways with which to explore how to write about mine. And so maybe it's just a natural love language, but just even the delicate acoustic guitar, you know, the keys that come in.
And all I need is for you to be kind.
That lyric melts me, and all I need is for you to be kind. But what he follows it up with, and if you've ever been on the losing end of like a tough dynamic in a relationship, where like you're the weaker of the two personalities, so you're the one that's taking the brunt of somebody else's like anger or aggression or anxieties or insecurities, those can be tough things to get by.
Is for you to be kind.
It certainly brings me to a transatlanticism era.
It's rarely worth your time.
It's got vibes from both like transatlanticism to me and Plans. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the song The Passenger Seat, but it also reminds me in some ways a little bit of the song Summer Skin. It also in some ways reminds me
worth your time.
A little bit of like Stay Young, Go Dancing a little bit. So, you know, it feels like there's similar sound textures.
Broken fences, you claim.
Come on. There we go. Sorry, keep pausing.
It's rarely worth your time.
Admittedly, a little bit of it was so I could reel it back in. I let it go a little bit too much there.
Tried to mend these broken fences. You claimed I built a wall, that I'd obstructed all your exits, as if my aim all along was to keep you somewhere you no longer wish to be. And all I need is for you to be kind, but it seems it's rarely worth your time. All I need is for you to be kind, but it seems it's rarely worth your time.
It came in the left ear.
It's rarely worth
You can hear the room.
time. It's rarely worth your time.
You know, it's pretty interesting because this feels to me in a lot of ways, the gift of retrospect is an interesting and beautiful one. Sometimes painful, but as I'm hearing as we come to the end of this song, I cannot help but feel like I just read a song that I might have written about my own divorce. I can remember feeling these ways. I can remember having these thoughts, and I can remember really walking through it. And as I'm having those thoughts, I'm kind of sitting here with this big breath of relief, like this huge, like, it was really a lot back there. And like now looking at my life, like I have this like completely rebuilt, never could have imagined it like this. Like I married this like super amazing blonde Betty that just like it is really supportive and loving and kind and like believes in this thing that I do. And like when I think about the contrast between, I can remember being that guy, you know, I can remember being that guy. And to acknowledge that I am currently this guy, you know, like, let's be real. Part of maybe the tears there in the beginning is getting hit between the eyes. And, you know, I can remember what it was to be the guy that gets hit between the eyes and realizes like, oh my God, my life just blew up in front of my face. And I can remember the years of grief after that. And I can remember picking myself up and falling in love again and like allowing myself to start over. And like, you know, letting these kinds of wounds heal. And I'm really glad I'm hearing this at this place of life and not that one. To be able to relate to it from this side of the fence is it's a gift. And I guess I would say to anybody that's watching the video, whether on the live show or like in, you know, whether you're taking a dump at work or whatever it is, you know, like watching from the bed in the morning, I don't know, whatever it is, wherever you happen to be, if you are in that phase where you're worried that your stars are going to disappear, I can tell you confidently, I'm just now on the backside of, you know, a crazy stretch, and I'm seeing life rebuild. And I'm telling you, the gratitude I feel like for that rebuild and seeing my life improve, and like the graciousness I have for life is incredible. And I absolutely think that if you're willing to do a little bit of work, let yourself hurt for a time. Don't let yourself wallow. You know, and make yourself a priority and allow yourself to grow and heal and chase things you love. I think you'll find you're going to blink one day and be like, wow, it was really a lot back there, but look at me now. I really think that that's the case. And I pray that you just take this moment to believe that for yourself. Because you can watch the history of this channel and you can see a guy that felt this way. He had really long hair. He talked like this a lot because he was always drunk and high. And you can see this one, and I like being this one a lot better. And I believe for anybody that they can get themselves out of this. Who cares? Closing on your first house end of the month.
In his search,
this song was a banger already, by the way. We watched the music video for this.
Of the circle, he kept arriving back at the start.
Sounds better on title.
Having fell every hurdle, she tried to make him feel better. What's up, Jeremiah? Welcome to the Walterooski song.
Cause he was living for the wandering. His heart like a dead letter. Always seemed he was punching up flowers, ruminating like a fatalist for hours, with a voice like the sound of slamming doors, in a voice like the sound of slamming doors.
That, I really love that fuzzy bass tone, you know? I feel like one of the things I've always appreciated about, you know, Nick, about, you know, when it comes to his bass playing is he's typically got very melodic, very yet rhythmic bass lines. And while that sounds like, well, he's playing the bass, I've appreciated the way he does it. Very pick forward, very heck, I wear these glasses or black frames because of Ben Gibbard. There was a time when this was just a circle because of Nick Harmer, but I'm not. That's a little bit too deep lore. I've since amended the tattoo, neither here nor there. But there is such a fuzzy punch to his bass tone in this that I just am loving. It's not as clean punch with a lot of headroom. It's like it's doing some dirt.
In a voice like the sound of slamming doors. Swallow him whole. She tried to console him, but wanted to grow it alone, because he'd never been alone.
Admittedly, I've listened to this a couple of times, so I'm not gonna come out here and pretend like I haven't sat and thought about these lyrics for quite a while. And I kind of see these people in my life, and I recognize I used to be one of them. I think sometimes when you embody I am the sad person, you just have these weird actions that aren't like what your normal default mode network would be. So you have a hard time with experiencing joy. So, again, the imagery of punching the flowers.
Felt the myth of control. It always seemed he was punching the flowers, ruminating like a fatalist for hours, with a voice like the sound of slamming doors. In a voice like the sound of slamming doors. It always seemed he was punching the flowers.
Jason McGurr, I think, is probably the drummer of indie rock. I don't think that there's a better one. By the way, that blonde Betty that just walked into the bathroom back there, she's with me. It's so cool.
For granted, the sweet is still sour. When he spoke, it was the sound of slamming doors. All she heard was the sound of slamming doors.
See, it's these parts that you didn't normally get in Death Cab, and I love it.
Words were sharpened like axes. We swung them blindly around.
I love that ethereal ray.
No regard for the dangers. We slashed her to the ground. And I'm not sure which is worse, if God laughs or he doesn't. And I'm not sure which is worse, if it was love or it wasn't.
This certainly feels like it's been a retrospective on a divorce. Or the end of a relationship or something.
If it was love or it wasn't.
Because maybe it's outside looking in from that, though. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not a particular circumstance, but it seems if you consider the last song and this song linked, you know what I mean? If you consider that is the case, I think it tells a pretty interesting story that both sides are at fault.
Taken for granted, the sweet is still sour. When he spoke, it was the sound of slamming doors. All she heard was the sound of slamming doors. All she heard was the sound of slamming doors.
If it's not connected, this could also be, how somebody is handling going through the relationship towards the tail end and not being a great adjusted version of themselves. And then maybe kind of going through the grief where you ask oneself that self-defeating question, was it love or wasn't it? If you broke up, I think we can all agree most of the time that when you go through a breakup and you ask yourself that question, you're only asking yourself that question to torture yourself, because you wouldn't be asking the question if it wasn't love. Just because it doesn't work doesn't mean it wasn't love. And further than that. It doesn't mean you have to completely nuke all of the good memories in your brain because it didn't work, right? Like, you get to keep the good ones with the bad ones. You get both sides of the coin, right? You just got to decide that coin is going to be currency in your life and not something that weighs you down in your pocket, you know? So you got to choose how to look at it. But I do like that it could fit into a concept in a couple of different ways.
All she heard was the sound of slamming doors.
Anyways, be right back. Got to run an ad. Alrighty, guys, we are back. Let us hop into song number 3, Pep Talk. Here we go.
No blames and explaining ways, they are pouring from my cup. Rebounds always running me down like a lion on the plains. But this fate is its own escape, so I just stand in place. And now I find I'm waking up at sunrise and just lying in bed, giving myself a pep talk to survive the day lying ahead. My past is a whiskey glass tipping down a drunkard's throat.
Dude's reading my mail. But from like 2001, you know, I'm so thankful this came out now and not then. Oh my gosh. I did not need to feel that understood back then.
In bed, giving myself a pep talk. In bed,
This imagery. And now I find myself waking up at sunrise, just lying in bed, giving myself a pep talk to survive the day lying ahead. Like, before I quit my career in finance and like just decided, you know what, I'm downsizing my friggin' life. I'm not wearing a tie anymore. I'm not working 80 hours a week anymore. I don't care about money. I don't care about like cars. I don't care about, like, I'm friggin' pissed. Like, I'm paying this divorce off, and then I am just living in a tiny place. Here we are, you know? But there was a long time when I was still in finance, and I would wake up in my, like, swanky apartment, and, like, the sun would be creeping in, and, you know, in Phoenix, the sun comes up pretty early in the summer. And I can remember specifically getting up, like, being so mad that I was awake and knew I wouldn't be able to go back asleep, and just trying to tell myself, like, dude, just go to work. Just go to work. You just got to make it through a day. And then I would go and work for like 14 hours in an office, crunching numbers. And I'd go back to my house, and I would like lay awake way past the time I should, because I knew I'd have to get up early, and like couldn't bring myself to sleep because it was like I had no time to myself. So that it was like I was in this really vicious cycle of like grief and like keeping myself in grief by like perpetuating my own sadness by like not making healthy decisions. And I drank a lot. And so all of these things, like I'd give myself a headache and wake up the next day to the sunlight being like, ugh, just do it again. We just got to get through. And dude, again, hitting me between the eyes.
To survive the day lying ahead. My past is a whiskey glass tipping down a drunkard's throat.
this album has been so far, like 3 songs in, a tremendous opportunity for me to remember from whence I came. Written from just the, like, I think grief is pretty universal in its application to humanity. Like, a lot of times it doesn't necessarily matter the stimulus, the experience, it seems, is frequently the same person to person. You know, like, maybe they handle it differently, but, like, I think maybe I can just see so much of my own story in the past. Like, it kind of feels like I'm watching a montage of my past and like this phase that I think I've always kind of been afraid of. Like, once I stopped being the sad guy, I think I was always afraid of, like, that guy. And maybe, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a bit of me here in this album that's kind of given me the opportunity to give that guy a hug. You know, like, I think sometimes you are the only person that can advise yourself. And sometimes it's like a matter of just looking back at yourself 5 years ago, or, like, you know, when you were a teenager, and telling that person, that version of yourself, like, dude, you really pulled out of this one in, like, a big way. I promise you're gonna make it. This is kind of a unique opportunity for me to have that moment, I guess, with myself through a pretty gnarly phase of life.
Stakes and step out on the ledge, you're never coming back. They make no difference, and all of the colors blend into black. And if I raise the stakes and step out on the ledge, you gotta pull me back. You gotta pull me back.
He's saying that to himself. That's the pep talk. You gotta pull me back. Wow! It's an incredibly wise yet difficult position to take when you realize the pep talk you give yourself. Like, you are, at the end of the day, the only one that can help yourself. I think anybody can make themselves a victim of circumstance. And further than that, I am a professional, like, certified Olympic gold medalist at creating problems to make myself the victim of. I started noticing that theme in my life, and it's one that I've been, like, hell-bent on, like, trying to eliminate. You know, is like creating a problem in my life and then, like, making myself the victim of it. I certainly did that with my sadness, and you know, I did things that would make me sad, and then I would sit and wallow about being sad. And I gotta tell you, it's a hard thing to be like, I'm drinking because I feel so sad, and then you wake up with just, like, you know, a red wine hangover and purple lips, and you're like, I'm so sad, my head hurts so bad. And I was already sad about that thing before. And you make it worse, and eventually you get to a place to where you say, okay, Walter, or insert X for name, you're the one that's doing this to you. You gotta be the one to not do this to you anymore. And in fact, you probably gotta make, like, hard decisions. Like, sometimes you have to take life to the chin. That means feeling feelings, like, and again, it's not easy to suck the long dick of life at all. It's certainly not. Like, sometimes it means getting your finances in order. Sometimes it means accepting that you're in a toxic relationship with somebody or somebodies. Sometimes it's accepting that you yourself are the toxic person. It's tough, like, to navigate humanity. It's actually really, really, really hard. But I definitely think the pep talk certainly starts with this. Loved that song. Needed this album.
I
I love Jason McGurk's drumming so much.
A tower in my mind, a place that no one
This is the title track.
No one else would ever find, 'cause I...
Ooh, wait, I built you a tower A. Okay, that explains the parentheses. Okay, so... You're so cute in your robe. Hey, where are my proud husbands out there? Let's just show in the chat in the YouTube comments. Where are my proud husbands out there? We out here celebrating our wives, fellas. Okay? Show yourselves.
I built you a tower in my mind, a place that no one else would ever find, 'cause I needed you contain, you'd run circles round my brain till I couldn't think of anyone else.
Hey, thank you for being my wife. This album is really got me remembering from whence I came, and I cannot tell you how blessed it's making me feel at this very moment. I love you, babe. I know, I friggin' love you back. And thank you for adjusting the AC, because admittedly, I also was a little warm. Okay. Guys. This is the title track, and the idea of building somebody a tower, you know, there's the mythology component to it, like, you know, the princess in the tower guarded by a dragon. If you build somebody, like, the dragon put the princess there, right? Like, I'm not trying to be Shrek here, but what I'm saying is, typically, you're doing that for not the benefit of the person you put in the tower, okay? That's typically the case. It's not necessarily a good thing. And then you kind of see that like living rent-free in his brain comparison, I guess, is effectively what I'm getting of the lyrics. Like you have the thought or idea of somebody locked in your head. That's all you're focusing on. And it's kind of, you know, I definitely romanticized my relationships after they ended. Pretty much any single one of them for a period of time. I think a lot of people do that.
My brain till I couldn't think of anyone else. At first the silence felt.
I really loved the panned guitar scale here.
Was estranged, but finally made amends. But into this void, into this empty space, all my sleeping fears, baby, began to rain till I couldn't think of anything else.
Wow.
Until I couldn't think of anything else.
You hear that like what I think it was like a bloomy reverb with like maybe a tape delay and a push down on a tremolo arm, if I had to guess.
I thought that I
Flanger maybe?
could keep you locked away, that in this soundless spire was where you always stay, but there was no shade.
The ethereal reverb in this is so nice.
To think that I was sane, now I cannot think, and now I cannot think of anyone else. Oh, how this pension is a curse.
also have felt like this album has gotten Ben back to more melodically singing, right? Like he kind of did this thing for the a couple of albums where he did more like talk singing voice. And you know, I don't know, maybe it's because like Plans was the first one I ever heard, but he, even when he like, if he was never the strongest vocalist, he still had his own way of singing. And maybe as he got older and his voice matured a little bit, he started doing the more talk singy stuff. But I've always really appreciated it more when he said, like, this feels a lot like Plans and earlier. There's some moments where I, get little tasters of each of the other little bits. And I think specifically because you have the other guitar textures and keys, and kind of other instruments provided by the other two gentlemen that were added into the band. So you have a kind of a different dynamic for space that you can achieve here. But it feels like it's done pretty well to reference most of their catalog, at least in audio texture, while still representing an evolution in places that, like, I really like them going.
When I wish you just become an acquaintance or time to time someone. I built you a tower in my mind, a place that no one else would ever find. 'Cause I needed you, you contain. You'd run circles round my brain. Now I cannot think, and now I cannot think of anything else. And now I cannot think, and now I cannot think of anyone else.
It's almost, I do want to comment on the idea that this is seeming to come from a brain that is like self-perpetuating its own sadness. And I can recognize it to a T. Again, this is one of those moments where I can remember being that guy, like even like in the grief of like the loss of a really long relationship, like even in trying to find companionship there afterwards and like rebound relationship scenarios. Like, I convinced myself clearly I was fine and things weren't bad, but like I knew what was really in the back of my brain. Like if I was willing to be honest with myself, and I know how easy it is to like get yourself fixated on something. And when my grandma died, for example, like I had my brain similarly focused on that. It's like I think we take these things that cause grief and we put those things in a tower. I can tell you the experience of divorce and the experience of like the death of my favorite person, like watching my grandmother breathe for the last time, very different catalysts, remarkably similar experience of grief, like, and when I reflect on those two very different things, it occurs to me that like, wow, my body and brain handle big emotions and traumas this certain way, like kind of caught between the eyes and then like, then immediately overwhelmed at a moment of being alone, and then like trying to be bold-faced. Like there are so many different phases, but like when I reflect on how I have handled myself, all of them kind of included building a tower for this thing that whatever the catalyst was that started the grief, or is the focal point of the grief, and I create circumstances where all I can do is think about it. And I in this context, it being a person, and I'm guessing, again, like the loss of a relationship, because that is like losing a friend, in a lot of ways. I think like the end of a marriage or a relationship is kind of like grieving a death, like a person. Like it's such a unique experience, and don't let yourself be there for too long. And if you find yourself like, yep, I've got a tower built, most things, like most towers don't end well, right? Like the princess leaves, like a plane hits one, war has started and it's like defending people trying to attack you. Like towers have pretty gnarly circumstances. So just keep, if you catch yourself being here, let's work on deconstructing the tower. This album is so good. Envy the birds? You know what we do on this channel? We consider the birds. Guys, we consider the birds. It doesn't seem as though this has lyrics on title, though. So let me pull these bad boys up on the Genius. Yeah, guys, Consider the Birds. And if you want to buy a Consider the Birds t-shirt, literally just below, you can find it on the live show on Twitch where it says Consider the Birds and you see a t-shirt, or on the YouTube show, literally in the description below. Check it out. Anyways, guys, Envy the Birds. Let's check it out.
I can't recall where I left my mind, it's somewhere in the rubble, an argument, hard to find, it's hard to find, I watched as the words were formed, and left your mouth, and how you tried to put them back, as they were out,
You say it, you can't take it back.
I envy the birds, soaring in the silence,
This is a uncomfortable picture. Puts you right, like, in medias res, of an argument, like into the middle of things. You just end up in a song, and like you're at that mindless part of a song, like of an argument where you're like starting to say things you don't mean, and you're kind of like watching yourself participate in an argument that you absolutely don't want to be in, and then somebody says something that just can't be taken back, and all of a sudden. And, like this lyric, I envy the birds. Again, if you've watched this stream, you know what the birds mean to me. Like, consider them. Consider the birds. If you're valuable. Anyways, that lyric, I envy the birds. I envy the soaring in silence. Just that in the midst of chaos, you long for just peace and kind of just. You can think of a lot of imagery there. Like birds are made to fly. He just wants to be doing the thing he's made to be doing in peace. Like, doesn't want to be shouting, they can fly away. Exactly. Like there's a lot of different ways you can look at that lyric.
soaring in the silence.
The bass is nice. And no, I haven't listened to American football.
More and more into a scream, spraying bullets of grievances, carelessly. It took so long to get nowhere. It got so loud, and in my mind I disappeared into the clouds, and how I envy the birds.
kind of gives me a little bit of The Cure vibes. With the guitar and bass and synth moments a little bit. But obviously Ben Gibbard's voice and not Robert's voice. A little bit less darkness to it. But this, because when we speak without words, then no one gets hurt. It's safer when it's quiet. It's such a like heavy circumstance, you know, like, and it's really, really tough when relationships get to that point to where everything somebody says feels like a transgression, you know, like, and I think you kind of see that happen, like relationships that are kind of on rocky ground, even standard day-to-day regular interactions where like nobody meant anything can be taken personal and blown out of proportion, and you get to that like I should just not say anything, and it changes the dynamic of the relationship. All of a sudden you stop feeling comfortable being yourself, and you know, you kind of shell up, and you know, you can absolutely kind of see this. And I will also just challenge you as a human being. I just don't think anything gets accomplished with yelling. I'm a very firm believer in cool heads prevail. Typically, in my experience of life, the person that is shouting is typically wrong. The first one to raise a voice, in my experience, it typically is off. Now, antagonizing is always a thing, so don't hear something I'm not saying, but I feel like most of us have, so think about it this way. If you go to work, you're not yelling at your coworkers, you hold your tongue, you mind the things you say, you make sure you don't get fired, you do your job, you play nice. If you can do that for complete perfect strangers, I think you owe that same common friggin' courtesy to your people. Your family, your friends, your spouses, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, whatever. If you can observe that self-control in public, I promise that you have the self-control to do it at home. There's never a reason to yell. There's never a reason to shout. There's never a reason to snap. And typically, if that happens, it's more indicative of the fact that like maybe you're in the wrong. If you're a person that snaps, consider that. Like I don't think things get accomplished when when loud voices happen. It paves the way for like you know, things that don't mean to be said to get said. And I think we can all agree that like cool heads prevail here. You know, I really think we can. It's so much easier to not try to back up something that you said that you didn't mean, because then that person is stuck having heard you say that forever. So just do yourself a favor. If it like gets loud, try to decide you're not going to yell. And like, even if you got to pause the conversation to both give yourself some cool down time, like maybe address it. I got really uncomfortable hearing that lyric of like you raised your voice more and more into a scream, spraying bullets of grievances carelessly. And it took so long to get nowhere. It got so loud, and in my mind, I disappeared into the clouds. I felt that so much. Because I'm very much a person that shuts down when it gets loud and tense. Like, I just turn my brain off. I can't do it. Like, I'm not built for it, you know? So, yeah. This has been this song, I am in love with this album.
No one gets hurt. It's safer when it's quiet. It's safer when it's quiet.
This reminds me of different name for the same thing. That's one of my favorite Death Cab for Cutie deep tracks ever. Different names for the same thing. This bit right here. coming. Hey, Mike, you get some sleep with me. Thanks for hanging out.
Speak without words, no one gets hurt. Speak without words, no one gets hurt.
It's like you're telling yourself this mantra because you're just like in self-protection mode. Doobles, thank you for the raid, homie.
Speak without words, no one gets hurt. Speak without words, no one gets hurt. Safer when it's quiet.
Wow.
Speak without words, no one gets hurt. Speak without words, no one gets hurt. Safer where it's quiet. Speak without words, no one gets hurt. Speak without words, no one gets hurt. Safer when it's quiet. Safer where it's quiet.
This album is the album from Death Cab I really needed, guys. Gosh, this is good. And it's not even recency bias, because I gotta tell you, I did not have this experience listening to the others. I really love Nick's bass tone here, too. Like, I genuinely think that the rhythm section of Death Cab is the gold standard of indie rock rhythm sections. You know, Jason McGurr is some like kind of madhouse like jazz drummer thrown into an indie band that like has this like really cool ability to jam and swing, and then Nick plays such like melodic and again rhythmic but like foundational structural parts while still being able to kind of walk and like, you know, incorporate his own bass lines in a way that don't just you know, drone on. And like while he can do that, like, you know, he has some pretty profound pronounced bass lines like I Will Possess Your Heart. You know, you get different textures with a lot of his like I think like a song like No Sunlight, you know, you get just really unique textures out of him. You know, Grapevine Fires, like he's just got such a cool vibe to him, and I feel like I'm hearing different textures out of him. But I mean honestly, I think Jason and Nick, just the two of them, have one of the swingiest, jazziest, coolest, most melodic rhythm sections of any indie band. I would put those two guys up against any of the others out there. Stone Over Water. Reminds me of 405. I remember when the day was long. No. And the night when the living room was all alone. That's not 405. Joy Division.
There's a fog San
New Order.
Francisco couldn't handle. So how this year's been a slog, melting both ends of the candle. And how I wish I could claim that I don't harbor ill feelings. So my anger's turning to shame. I stare a hole through the ceiling. I'm trying to hold it together. I'm trying to sleep through the night. I've got my windows open to the weather. And I keep telling my friends I'm alright.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
if you find yourself in a place like this, may you take your first steps with confidence. It's probably not going to be easy, but may you take your first steps and believe that it won't always be like this. This album has really been just the most beautiful gift of reflection.
Trying to take the first step into the arms of wherever, whenever. Every day I awake like a stone over water, skipping across a lake before I sink to the bottom. How I wish I could say that I'm immune to the mirror, with temples fading to gray from seeing the end drawing nearer. I can scream and shout, or learn to live without, but I'm trying to hold it together, trying to sleep through the night. Got my windows open to the weather, and I keep telling my friends I'm alright. Yeah, I'm trying to hold it together, trying to take the first step into the arms of wherever, whenever.
I'm getting a little torn up. Because I can remember what it was like to go through that phase, you know?
Trying to take the first step.
I felt like when I heard Owl City for the first time, they were ripping off the Postal Service. Like, I felt like, yeah.
Into the arms of wherever, whenever.
I was 14 when I heard my first Death Cab album. It would have been 2005. And I have lived with their music for 21 years of my life. 21 years, right? I have a college degree equivalent of time invested in Death Cab's music, in just years invested, right? And I think over that course of time, you develop a relationship with the catalog, with songs. You evolve as a person, and as you do, songs evolve with you in life. You know, as you grow to understand more of life, sometimes you grow to understand more of the songs that defined you. As you grow to understand more about music, sometimes revisiting them, you hear sounds you hadn't quite heard before. You understand perspectives of the song that you might not have otherwise understood had you not gone through a certain amount of life experience, you know? And as I'm reflecting on the fact that this catalog has truly been one of my closest friends in life, and I'm not just talking like, you know, we're best friends. Like I'm saying, like, I have spent more time with Death Cab for Cutie's catalog than any other band, period. Like truly period. If we ran it in hours, Death Cab's probably still got another like 20% of time compared to the next closest band. I mean, that's just being real with you. And when you invest so much of your life there and you find so much understanding in lyrics like that, and the sound textures that you go on to try to make with your own hands are inspired by these things, and you kind of try to make your own version of it, and you learn how to write lyrics that are image based because you read this guy that talked about sitting under a willow tree and how the leaves look in the air looked like teeth in a skyline. Like those things awakened a certain level of processing things for my brain. I truly do intellectualize music and words through a filter with Death Cab's like stamp on it. And I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that like, we've walked a lot of journeys together, and I'm kind of seeing my guy, in this case, like Ben, kind of seeing my guy like really deal with it. And I'm actually having a big chunk of empathy, like I'm sure he's fine, like as a human being, like he wrote the album, I'm sure he's, kind of grown around it as a person. But at the end of the day, like you see this work of art as reflective of a really hard time and a lot of turbulence. And knowing what that kind of turbulence is like in my own life, I can't help but empathize. But I also can't help but feel understood. Because again, as I've said before, I can remember being that guy. And when I was that guy, Death Cab's music was always a part of it, So there's this really unique walk for me in my life listening to this album right now, where the soundtrack of my life at any given point in time can be played to different Death Cab for Cutie song. And if they were making a movie about my life, you could probably pretty well score it with Death Cab songs. I guess as I'm listening to this, it's like I'm kind of hearing a friend spill his guts to me, and I feel very much like I understand, but I'll also have a little bit of heartbreak for that understanding, because it's like you can't do anything other than let your guy just go through it and talk to you about it. Anyways, I've got to run an ad. I'll be back here in a bit. This album is the Death Cab album I needed. Guys, I was built for this album. I really was. I'm so happy I get to listen to it in this context with you guys. I sometimes people will comment throughout being a YouTube creator, this is gonna happen, right? But sometimes people will comment like, "I hate that you pause in the middle of the song, like let it play through and then comment." Like to post it, I can't do that. For this to be like commentary, or I can't just let it play through. Otherwise, I'm like stealing their content. I have to add something to it, right? But like, I've got to tell you, it's really special to me to be able to share this with you guys and have somebody to talk about it with, right? Like, I've commented a lot that like I've always kind of seen this channel as like the basement I listen to music with my friends in, and this is the first day since I've done this that my favorite band dropped an album that I get to share with you guys. Like, I feel like today is the day I'm bringing the album to the table, and I'm like, guys, I got the new record today. Let's go to the basement. And to have you guys here for that is admittedly special. Also, to hear the evolution of the band is special, and to see the position that it's written from is special. Your experience with previous Death Cab albums gives you a vantage point. For sure it does. For sure it does. I like I said earlier, I have 21 years of time invested. I have an actual degree in Death Cab. The bass tones. I've never heard Nick do this.
Death lingered in your doorway, awaiting invitation. Like a vampire or a neighbor, they sensed your hesitation.
I've never heard these guys do this.
And your eventual acquiescence.
Oh, and boy, you guys know I love the word acquiescence, or acquiesce in general, right? My man goes and sings it.
Or a neighbor, they sensed your hesitation. And your eventual acquiescence.
Kinda.
Rain sheets of pain and anger.
Oh, man.
But I thought to myself, how heavenly a state. The acceptance of collapsing under unspeakable weight.
Do it. Okay, do it.
The righteous indignation
Okay.
began flowing as expected. You were a question without an answer. An introspection best deflected. There was no closure in your exit. It was a perfume for the scentless. But I thought to myself, how heavenly a state.
They've gotten so, like, they've always been good with dynamics, but they leveled up. The heartbeat drum, bass drum,
When
it's kind of got like a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
When there's no making sense of the past or present tense. I will breathe for you. I will breathe for you. Death lingered in your doorway, and then reached across the threshold. You grasped the hand extended.
Might be one of the stronger ones on the album. Kind of brings me back to Long Division from Narrow Stairs. One of those things where some parts reach into their bag where it's like, this feels like my guys. But then there's this evolved sense of it. Again, I certainly don't feel like we get as paunchy like a Nick sound. Like, this might be my favorite Nick work. Like, this might actually be. Admittedly, I still think Jason McGurr, climbed a real high mountain on the song "We Looked Like Giants." I think that's probably my favorite of his drum work. Yeah, I'd say I still think that one. I still think that one is his mountain top. But I feel like have all certainly leveled up. I like feeling like we're going back to the sounds that kind of made me fall in love with them. Like, and when I say the sounds, I mean the sound textures, because Ben Gibbard's writing instrument has always shined to me. It has. I've always, even if it wasn't my favorite album or favorite work, I always found a way to relate to the lyrics, but not always the sound textures. You know, they weren't. I didn't evolve in maybe the same way as they did for like maybe 10 years. They would always drop a song or two that I enjoyed within the albums along the way, but I just had a hard time getting into the cohesion of them. This one has the cohesion, I feel like some of their earlier albums did, with the sound textures that some of their earlier albums did, but also presents itself as an evolved form of the band without leaning into like trying to reinvent their own wheel, you know? I really appreciate this. I really, really, really do. I wonder who produced it. Like, I wonder what the... So, I'm not familiar with this guy. Huh. Label. DFC LLC. Yeah, boys.
Death lingered in your doorway and then reached across the threshold. You grasped the hand extended and were pulled into the unknown.
Listen to his open hat.
How heavenly a state. How heavenly a state.
Part of me wondered if they were going to hard cut it. Like they there's a hard cut on Narrow Stairs as well, and maybe it wasn't on Long Division, but it definitely gave me kind of a Long Division E vibe. But I love how they built it out and then they let it fade on Nick's boom trapdoor. Oh baby. Listening to Arcade Fire right now? I'm joking.
I pledge myself to your misery. I kneel at its throne.
Oh.
Respecting your proclivity.
This one is gonna be this is much more reflective of like the sounds you might get in the Codes and Keys album. So if this song is your vibe, I think Codes and Keys is maybe the stop from Death Cab that you want to check out.
I pledge myself to your misery. I kneel at its throne. Respecting your proclivity to languish on your own. Like
the atmosphere
snowflake
with that
starting
swell.
an avalanche. It always depends on where you land. There's a trap
They really got
door in your heart.
much more proficient with these the ambient
And I can only get so
atmosphere
close,
component.
so close to you. I give myself to your memory. You can lock me in its cage. But if only the winners write history, there will be nothing on our
at the end of the day, when it all comes to an end, you do realize after the end of it, with a bit of perspective, there's typically both sides involved, right? Like, and you can paint any imagery over it. It's interesting to see that, you have like, I pledge myself to your misery, following it up with, I give myself to your memory, you know? Um, the duality of love and hardship within love is tough. And to see something coming to an end, and not wanting it to, can perpetuate a much uglier end. And yeah, when you romanticize the grief and let the grief become you, I've kind of jokingly referred to that era of my life as being the Waltered beast. The guy that just kind of forgot who he was when he wasn't being the sad guy. And realized, I realized in retrospect that I'd kind of wired myself to perpetuate that sadness. Like, my default mode network came about maintaining that level of sadness because I had embodied this mentality where I was the victim of some circumstance and not actively in control of my life, like is the case. Right? Like, it's a very interesting perspective. And again, to see so much of the guy I was, like, being able to remember so clearly from whence I came with these words, because in a lot of ways, the way he writes is a formative language to me. It's like my first language in music that I ever really knew how to speak. The first song that ever made me cry was Maps, Yeah, Yeah, Yes. I can't quantify that kind of experience. That was my first favorite song, but this is my first favorite band. And it was the first band who, I knew all of the words to all of the songs on all of the albums. And I think when you have like a kind of a Rolodex of a whole bunch of songs in your head, you have that writing style just kind of tattooed on your soul forever after that. And no matter what you do, if you have a band like that, and if you're a musician, if you have a band like that, you could probably agree with me that anytime you pick up your instrument, some bit of what you do is rooted in what they did. So here's the thing. In 21 years, I've never gotten to see my favorite band live. I've had tickets twice, and both times something happened. One time, admittedly, Ben Gibbard got sick, so they canceled the concert. I was gonna drive to Louisville from where I lived to go. Actually, it might have been Asheville or Charlotte. I can't remember where it was. I'd have to look back, but it was 2015. And yeah, Ben Gibbard got sick, so I didn't get to go. I think it was like September. And then I had tickets another time, and somebody died. So I had to attend a funeral. So both times, and as a child, I couldn't see them because I grew up in a religious household that would not have been cool with me listening to Death Cab for Cutie. And when my parents, they found out I was listening to Death Cab in high school, and, when they heard the songs I was playing on my guitar, I think they softened a little bit. Like, I don't think they were worried when they heard me, pick up my guitar and finger pick "I Will Follow You Into the Dark." I think after that they were like, oh, it's a pretty song, as you were, so it's kind of funny how life works that way. But I
write history.
I lost it.
There will be nothing.
Yeah. That said, I would never have been allowed to see them when I was living in my parents, and then college, happens. At the end of college, I try to see them. Ben gets sick, and then I try to see him, and somebody dies, and then, life happens. And this is I'm not gonna miss them on this tour. They're coming to Phoenix. Mel and I are going. She got me tickets for my birthday. I'm going to try. I'm trying. I'm going to try to cover the concert. Like I sent a request, but whether they allow me like photo access or not, like for the press pit, I'm going to make a video documenting the experience because it's going to be one of the most meaningful concerts of my whole entire life because it's been 21 years coming. It is the band that has been my favorite band for the longest stretch of my life. So like July 31st, 20 and 26, your boy is going to be seeing the band. And I cannot, like, while it doesn't have Chris Walla, I think I was so heartbroken when I realized that I wasn't going to get to see the band with Chris Walla. And then when I tried the other time and somebody died, I was like, I'm just not meant to see these guys. And now I'm going to get to see them with like my super, super hot Betty of a wife and you know, not in the east and not in the south, but in the west, and I'm happy about it. And that's, to me, like, you guys know I've been doing a lot more live concert coverage and like going out trying to talk to fans and like document what fan culture in an audience is, as well as just like what the experience of being at the show is. But going to see Death Cab for Cutie is the most anticipated concert experience of my life. And I say anticipated to me because I've thought about it for so long. You know, I saw Fish at the Sphere, and I'm not going to lie to you, I imagine that experience is going to be a totally different kind of sentimental mind-blowing than like seeing Death Cab for Cutie at the Phoenix Financial Theater. But you can't override the weight of sentiment, you know what I mean?
But if only the winners write history, there will be nothing on our page. You're a boulder tumbling down a hill.
I really love how they pan the guitars and instruments to give you a sense of them being in the room with you. Like,
by standing
love that.
still. There's a trap door in your heart, a new button on your desk, well worn from being pressed. There's a trap door in your heart, and falling through.
Dang. This definitely gives me the Cure influence vibes. Affectionate. I could be totally
There's
wrong.
a trap door in your heart where everyone disappears when they reach to pull you near. There's a trap door in your heart, I wish I knew.
Who's first who is hearing
And now I'm falling through.
who's hearing Death Cab for Cutie for the first time this evening in the live show? I cannot define to you the experience of sentiment here, but it's heavy. And for me, for this to feel like such a return to the things I loved, while also being such an evolution, and for the subject matter to touch on a phase of my life that like I'm pretty freshly out of and like proudly moving forward from, and like, you know, my content, I think lately, especially the last year, has kind of reflected this new phase of my life where like, yeah, I'm occasionally afraid to let hope, you know, take me over because hope can be expensive. But there is this like joy I've found in life again, and like passion and things I'm reaching for, and like, you know, being able to be in a place of life where you allow yourself to experience joy again is really cool. And with that, I think you can help perpetuate joy by remembering from whence you came. And to be able to remember being the guy that was super broken, kind of going through the worst of the worst, and now to look at my life and feel like things are the best of times, even if, life is still life and there's always going to be problems behind the scenes. Like, clearly there's like life components I don't talk about on the show, but largely things are better in my life than they've ever been. And to be able to have a clear head and look back and be like, gosh, I'm so thankful. Like I made it out of that. Like, I'm so glad I gave myself patience. And even when I fell on my face sometimes, I just, this is hitting in the best ways. And I already know I loved Riptide. Asphalt Meadows was so hit or miss for me. It felt like, again, not as cohesive an album. It kind of felt like, I don't know. I didn't get the same vibe from that. And honestly, here's as honest as I can be about it. Maybe I was a little butthurt about Chris Walla leaving the band, that I didn't allow myself to like a couple of albums. So maybe they were unfairly judged, and like I need to give them like a fresh listen again. And that's just reflection and growth here happening live on the show. It's Riptides. Oh, it was such a good song. I love the woo 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 woo.
These days, I say goodbye without opening my mouth. I just stare into the distance till you figure it out.
Yeah, it's absolutely brown. This is that's one of the things I've kind of liked, is they've incorporated. If it's brown, it's like this kind of brown though. It's not like Brown Town. Also, if you're interested, if you want to see my first time reaction to hearing this song, you can find it on my YouTube page, just in case you were wondering. I have probably listened to it a billion times since then. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I feel as invested as a border guard who's seen too many people leaving to take it too hard.
So been there.
Too tired to talk. I'm too tired to end the war, and I can't seem to hold it together anymore.
Can I get this part? Did kind of make me think to say, I realized there was a phase of my life where every relationship I'd ever been in, that person left me. And when I started thinking about it, when I reflected on those relationships where that person left me, I was unhappy in almost, if not all of those relationships before I'd ever gotten left. And I started, like, there were plenty of times along the way, if I was honest with myself, that I was like, I wanted to leave and I never did. And now I feel bad for a relationship I really didn't want. Why? Why do I feel this way? I perpetuated stuff in my brain, right? And I made myself feel bad. And when I started asking myself, why didn't I leave people? It was because I was afraid of being alone. I didn't want to leave anybody, even if they were terrible to me, because I didn't want to be alone. But guess what happened when I was like, being alone might be better than being like this. And I finally left a bad relationship. I friggin' grew. There was something to live for. I cared enough about myself to be like, nah. And I got to tell you, that snowball effect in my life really avalanched into some positivity. And you start taking up for yourself, and you start realizing your value. And I think the more you realize your value, the more things start kind of building for you. And a lot of that is rooted in grace for yourself, allowing yourself to have the experience of tough emotions and taking them to the chin and you're practically quoting my therapy session this week. I'm only giving you my own anecdotal experience, my guy, but glad I could, glad I could bring that all back for you.
People leaving to take it too hard.
But don't just be with somebody because you don't want to be alone. You know what I mean? Allow yourself time to be alone. Because I got to tell you, allowing me to be alone, Walter, brought about this channel, which brought about my wife, which is now bringing about changes that are like life-changing. Like truly life-changing. For doing something I love, like talking about music with my friend, music I've never heard with my friends, and some of them have, and some of them haven't heard it. Like, that's so cool. What a niche thing to do in life, right? But all of that was rooted in just me trying to figure out who Alone Walter was. And I met a person who was cool with me continuing to be Walter, wanted to support me being Walter, because the Alone Walter that she found, she liked him. There was no need to just become absorbed in one another because what the other person did was cool. I'm telling you, give yourself that alone time. Figure out who alone you are. Don't just be with somebody because you'd rather be with them than alone. Because if you reflect, and you really do, think about the position you're in, are you actually happy? And if you are, fight for it. It's so hard to keep it forever. Because I tell you, achieving joy is actually one of the most difficult things in the world. And you're good at it or you're not. But it is something that you can practice to achieve. Come on, baby.
People leaving to take it too hard. I'm too tired to talk. I'm too tired to end the war. And I can't seem to hold it together.
And this kind of feels like the moment after the grief where you're in the rebound and you're like, no, I'm not doing it anymore.
Each one's a trigger and I'm holding the gun. Like a perp frozen in your headlights. You forgot to run.
That bass tone.
Overcome by the voices multiplying in the crowd.
This is the big single, yeah.
Swelling in between my ears and growing frighteningly loud. I'm too tired to talk. I'm too tired to end the war. And I can't seem to hold it together anymore.
Like, if you're at this point, you're too far. You're too far in.
I can't bring you up to speed. There's too many riptides in this ocean to proceed. Though I'm feeling
This fucking
fine,
gets me every time.
roughly half the time. There's a fatal flaw in my heart's design.
The blue notes in this make me so happy.
I'm too tired to talk. I'm too tired to end the war. And I can't seem to hold it together anymore. I'm too tired to start. I can't bring you up to speed. There's too many riptides in this ocean to proceed. There's too many riptides in this ocean to proceed.
So, I was sitting here thinking about this. I've talked a lot about them being like in the catalog, being like a lifelong friend, right? You ever have friends that you probably have one or two in your life, hopefully, like real good friends that you don't actually have to talk to all the time. You know, it might be a year or two that you talk, but when you do talk, you have these big conversations. You really go into it. You get the nitty gritty. You don't have to go into like all of the random junk dynamics, right? But like you talk about what's immediately relevant, you catch people up on the necessary context that only they'll be able to interpret because you have that dynamic with them. But that is like all that's necessary because the foundation of that relationship is so strong. You don't got to visit it all the time. You just know that like if for whatever reason in life something goes down, that person would lay in traffic for you. That kind of friend. That's kind of how I feel about Death Cab, and I feel like currently I am in the middle of having that conversation with those guys. Like it's not a catalog I have listened to a whole lot lately, you know, especially as I've gone on the music discovery journey and dug into things I have intentionally never listened to as like we do this together. I find that I end up spending a lot more time in the discovery land and like kind of revisiting things I've listened to along the journey. But this is now a part of that journey, and it's so cool to be able to like kind of put a Death Cab for Cutie spot on the map, but it's also really cool to revisit an old friend where we're both clearly at different places in our life's journey, but it's like we come back and we have kind of similar experiences and similar stories, and you know, like I get to see how much they've learned along the way. You know, they get to tell me about kind of the rough and tumble they've been going through. You know, and show me this new beautiful work of art that they've got. And I get to be like the supportive friend who's like, dude, this art changed me. Thank you for that. Like I'm wishing you the best, man. I hope things are good. Like next time we talk, like it shouldn't be so long before we talk next, you know? Like you gotta catch me up, you know? Like, and I'll tell you what, I'll ask you about that thing. Heck, I'll tell you what, I'm probably gonna learn these songs. Like I'll probably jam with them tomorrow. You know, it's like that. This has been. There's no possible way I'm going to be able to listen to another album tonight after this. This is one of those albums that's killing everything else for me. I hate to reschedule all of the other plans for this evening, but no other music is going to be as good to me tonight as this is. This is such a fulfilling experience to me. I like, and I'm telling you, it would be unfair to the album reaction. It really would be. I have like fallen in love with my favorite band all over again. It's an album that's hitting me kind of exactly where I needed to, because I think in some ways there are these points of reflection that are really beneficial to have in life. You know, like moments where you get to remember from whence you came, and in this case, like I know that's been a theme for me a lot throughout this album, but to be able to maybe look at this album, kind of see pieces of my story woven throughout, and yeah, I am superimposing my life into a Death Cab album, but that's how artwork works. So if that's bothering you, suck a butt. Like this is how I metabolize music here. Okay, so I recognize that Ben's writing is often about other things, like scenarios he imagines, sometimes about himself. I think he always puts a little bit of himself into his writing, as most writers do. But I really wanted to like the album, and I was really terrified I wasn't going to. So to get this is so meaningful. To see these words is so meaningful. To be able to kind of look back at my life and give 5 years ago Walt a hug and say like, dude, not only are you going to come out the top, but like in 5 years, Death Cab's going to drop an album you like. Dude, it's going to be great. Like to be able to do that is really, really, really amazing. And to be able to talk about these things with you guys, kind of walk you through my journey, you know, and introduce you to something that's so deeply meaningful to me. it's a big deal. Like, to me, that, you've watched me walk through a lot of journey of music and kind of explored some crazy territories from all over the world, from any genre. But you've always probably heard me reference this, and if you haven't listened to the band before, maybe it's not your thing, but like, I think you can appreciate that, like, boy, howdy is it mine. We've got 2 songs to go. Guys, how is it hitting you, and will it stick the landing? Let's go. Love the bass work. A late career peak, dude.
I lived in fear of razor blades in the candy and Bloody Mary in the mirror.
Based.
Now when
I think I was the last generation that lived with those fears, though. I think I might have been the last generation, because now there's a whole bunch of trunk or treats out there, and I don't hear kids talking about Bloody Mary anymore. They're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's.
Something sweet, the flavor of metal is overwhelming me.
Oh, dang, that really twisted.
I tried to hide from the rain falling inside me again, and all these storms, they never seem to end. Our summers spent.
You just made my day. Because I was listening to this album today, right now, I completely forgot that I bought a bass today. It should be here soon. I bought the floor model of an old, like, Newport, like reissue. And I'm so excited about that. It's in red. It's so sexy. I can't wait. I've been needing a new bass for a little while. I've been tracking my own music. I've been recording my own stuff behind the scenes a little bit. Like, admittedly, I'm finally getting a little, finally doing it. I'm trying to make an earnest effort at, like, doing my own project. And so I've been wanting a short scale bass, and boy, howdy, I got one today, and I completely forgot about it until you told me that. And now, not only is it Death Cab for Cutie Friday, new album day, but it's also, I got a new bass day on Death Cab for Cutie, new album day. You have no clue what kind of a double whammy this is.
Trampoline with lawn darts and paling, the groomed fields of green. The only truth I've ever found is that everything that ascends,
I got a new bass today.
will soon come crashing down. And I've tried to hide from the rain falling inside me again, and all these storms, they never seem to end. They never seem to end. It takes just a little light. It takes just a
And I've tried to hide from the rain falling. Like the meter there is so interesting. It's like kind of rushed. Boom, boom. Now, when you have something sweet, you long for the taste of metal. I'm sitting here thinking about that lyric. And it almost feels like you're programmed to feel like something bad is going to happen when something good happens. And I absolutely relate to that. This might surprise you, but I think when you go through trauma, my experience at least was that I came out kind of guarded. I came out kind of shelled off. And like, for example, in my marriage with Mel, I think sometimes I realized I was kind of shelled off or hardened in some ways. And it was, I think, in some ways rooted in the idea that because I was happy, I was sure something was going to happen to ruin it, right? Things are good. Oh no, something bad is coming. I couldn't get past that. And to me, it kind of feels similar, you know? Like, you get something sweet, and all of a sudden, like, you just affiliate it with something bad coming. And maybe I'm completely far off. Maybe that's me superimposing myself in the lyric, but that I can at least make something of that. Again, I think is special. I like that the writing lends itself to, you know, be abstract to the point to where you can superimpose yourself there, and it doesn't spell it out. You know, you don't have to know what the song was written about for it to apply to you where you are in life. And I think Ben's always had a really good pen for being able to write to the experience of a person. And, you know, if you're a person who feels things deeply or you know, internalizes your emotions, but feels them in a big way, I think you can kind of understand where this is rooted. Now, this is I Built You a Tower B. So, guys, is it going to stick the landing? I'm not going to lie to you guys. This has been the best Death Cab for Cutie album in like 11 years. Maybe 14. Kintsugi, so that was the beginning. I'll say 15 years. This is the first one I've actually really loved in 15 years. Oh.
I built you a tower in my mind.
We really got fuzzed out here.
A place that no one else would ever find.
Oh, baby.
'Cause I needed you contained. Run circles round my brain.
Revisiting the lyrics
I could not think
in a much more tense, gritty way.
anything else. At first the silence felt like an old friend. We're estranged for many years, but made amends. But into that empty space, my fears began to raise. Till I could not think.
This is what we call a stuck landing.
Many years we made amends. But into that empty space, my fears began to raise. Until I could not think of anything else. Many years.
I'm not even going to lie to you. Even this kind of sums things up. the tension, I'm very blessed in that, even though I went through a pretty hard experience in divorce, like, both people got to go their own ways, live separate lives. Like, we both got to say, at a period of time, after enough time had passed, like, yo, my bad. I am so sorry. I sucked. And continued on in our own ways, right? Like, and that was I think, very healing, liberating thing, and kind of gave me a little bit of like, I can go be my own person. Like, I'm fine. And I recognize this. And I think, honestly, there's a little bit of that freedom that allowed me to find love again, is like forgiving myself for my own actions in past relationships. Like, where I knew I dropped the ball as like a person, like, and in allowing that to happen and allowing me to forgive myself, my commitment to my wife is tenfold, because now I recognize, like, the relationship is equal parts my responsibility, and, like, I'm her partner. She needs me, like, in the same ways that I need her. And I think we both have this really cool agreement, like an understanding, where at the end of the day, like, our relationship matters more than like disagreements, and like what we want for one another is like the best. And I think so much of my commitment and ability to be the person I am is out of the ashes of the person I was. But you have to allow yourself to get to that point. And some of that is like walking through hard phases of life. Some of that is like, experiencing grief, experiencing pain, experiencing growth, which comes with growing pains. And then being brave enough to let yourself move forward. But yeah, I can understand the concept.
Anything else? At first the silence felt like an old friend. Was estranged for many years, but made amends.
Clearly, in this context, he's talking about silence being the old friend.
Many years, but made amends. But into that empty space, my fears began to raise, until I could not think of anything else. I'm learning how to live without
I've heard.
these ruminations are all about you. And I thought that I could keep you locked away. That in the
I
sound
really love that they're getting swig and fuzzy with their tones now.
There was no cage or shape that you could not escape. What a fool I was. Think I was safe. I'm learning how to live without you. But these ruminations are all about you. It makes me tired, so tired. I'm learning how
A little bit of an I Will Possess Your Heart guitar tone there.
I'm learning how to
Right here.
live without you. But these ruminations are all about you.
I think we're sticking the landing right now.
Makes me tired.
Oh, I'm so glad it didn't suck at the end.
Makes
Ugh. There's nothing like reuniting with an old friend. And in this way, I feel like we both kind of came back to each other a little bit older, a little bit wiser, a little bit more grizzled and scarred from life, a little bit more well lived as well, more experienced. But this is, again, my favorite thing that they've done in 15 years. I actually would bump. Recency bias is really going to weigh in really heavy for me right now, so I'm trying to be careful about where I place it. But I certainly am placing it above the previous three albums in terms of just immediately hitting me. I'm not gonna say it like is outdoing Codes. Actually, it might out. No, I think it might outdo Codes. I don't know about it busting into the formative three, but I feel like it's an extension of them in a way. Like, and I should make it clear, I don't want to make the albums compete with one another. This album was deeply meaningful to me in a way that competition with other albums that are deeply meaningful to me doesn't. You know, you can't put a value on sentiment. I have a hair on my tongue. I'm sorry. Um, I I think that when I was a little disarmed, I was finally willing to like not hold it against them for not having Chris Wallet in the band. I think that it just opens up immediately with Full of Stars, and like I got so overwhelmed and taken with that song, and immediately that sets the tone for everything. This was such a great reflection of grief, but at the same time, it was a really cool. This had such a heartbeat of human emotion to it. This looked like seeing your friend go through it from almost a third party perspective at sometimes, and sometimes as if you're hearing the narrative of somebody that's just going through it in the middle of it, like you just jump in and medias res to an argument that they're having, and you follow that narrative from there. And I think that there are so many moments throughout this album that you can see relationship moments where you can kind of, if you find yourself in some of those harder places, please do consider your position in life and consider yourself, but if you find yourself grieving any of these places, grieving similarly, allow yourself the ability to like deal with it and heal, and allow yourself to have the hope that it won't always actually be that way. That allow yourself to believe in the idea that you do have the stuff, like the chutzpah, the like you've got it in you to give it the old razzle dazzle and like pick your life back up again. Like you absolutely do. No matter how much you might relate to the lyrics currently. Because as a person who can see these lyrics and remember being that guy and see this perspective, I can acknowledge the biggest thing that changed was my decision to change it, like in commitment to doing so. This album, I really think, was a gift to my life today. And I got a new bass day, shout out to Eastwood Guitars, by the way, an amazing company that does some of the coolest stuff. I got their Newport bass, and I can't wait, but that's completely unrelated, and I'm not sponsored, by the way. I bought the guitar. But anyways, guys, I think you just heard my favorite album of 20 and 26 from my first favorite band. I hope you can maybe see a little bit about I don't think you could see me listen to Death Cab without seeing me light up because of what it means to me. But I hope you guys maybe got to know me a little bit better, and like where I'm coming from as a music creator, listening to this one with me. It really was a deeply sentimental, wonderful journey. Better than Gorillaz, yeah. This one's better than The Mountain to me. But again, it wasn't fair to Gorillaz to ask that question, just because of the sentiment behind the band. Guys, thank you so much for doing this with me. Thank you so much for being here to listen to it with me. Your participation and conversation and the ability to share this really made it more special than it might have otherwise been, you know? So thank you. Guys, I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for the positivity that you show both to me and to one another. Continue to be the best. And until I see you next, be introspective and consider the birds. Drive well, sleep carefully, go listen to all of Death Cab's records, and come to talk to me about them. Tell me which one's your favorite. I've been dying to talk to people about Death Cab for Cutie for a long time. So I love you guys. Goodbye.